Hey there, listeners. Welcome to Shit That Goes On in Our Heads, the podcast where we normalize conversations around mental health.
That's right. I'm Dirty Skittles, and alongside my amazing co-host, G-Rex, we're here to share real stories and tips from our incredible guests.
Each episode, we deep dive into struggles and triumphs of mental health, offering practical advice and heartfelt support.
Because no one should feel alone in their journey. Join us as we break the stigma and build community of understanding and compassion.
Tune in and let's start talking about the shit that goes on in our heads. 3, 2, 1. Welcome back to another episode of Shit That Goes On in Our Heads. Today we have an amazing guest, Laurie, and my amazing co-host, Dirty Skittles.
Welcome, Laurie.
Thank you. I am so excited to be here. It is such a privilege to be able to have this conversation with you both. Thank you. So excited for this.
I am too. Where are you right now, Laurie? Where are you located?
I'm actually in Canada. And like I was talking with G-Rex, I am fortunate that I'm near. I'm not sure if you both have heard of Banff, Canmore. Nope. So it's Banff is this just beautiful, I would say world-class national park. So where I am right now, I'm about a half hour from it. So just some of the best hiking, skiing, mountains. So I'm very fortunate that I'm able to be close to a place where I can get outside, because getting outside for me is the ultimate for my mental health. It really is.
Yeah, you know, I keep hearing that. Get outside, touch grass, go
touch
for
grass.
A walk. Yeah.
Watch the squirrels eat from your video recorded bird feeder. Yeah, do so all cool. Of that.
That's so cool. I got to get one of those bird feeders. I didn't know till you told me about that there's ones that actually have, like, I've had bird feeders, but not ones with cameras. So how cool.
Yeah, it's a camera, and it also identifies a bird via AI.
Oh, really cool.
But I'm going to tell you that about 87% of the time it's wrong, because they don't do it by geographic. But if there's any people out there that are really into like looking at birds and things, there's a really good app from Cornell called Merlin. I'll put it in our show notes.
Yeah.
Because what you can do is you can record the bird sounds, and it comes back and tells you what that bird is, and it's based on your location.
Oh, that's so cool. Because I love birds, and I always laugh. My kids make fun of me. They're like, when you're older, Mom, you're gonna, and this is in their words, you're gonna become one of those senior nerds that joins bird watching groups. Like, damn straight I am. I love it.
Yeah. What is it about? I mean, my sister-in-law were just talking about this, and she told me about that app too, G-Rex. And I was like, what is it? We all enter a bird era, I think, because my goal is to have a pet crow. I call it a pet loosely, but I want crows to bring me little trinkets. I am all about the birds.
Me too. And the crows are incredibly smart. Those, like the crows and the magpies. Oh my goodness, those birds are smart.
See, we all hit a bird era.
We did. And you know what? Because birds are calming, right? Like if you're high stress, or you're in a really like depressed state, just looking at them makes you, I don't know, it gives me like a sense of calm. Yeah, and same with like hummingbirds. I love hummingbirds. Love.
They're the best.
They're so beautiful, and they're just flawless. Like, that's the coolest thing. I know. I'm waving my hands, and like nobody can see. I'm like I'm a hummingbird. My arms don't move that fast. They're short. Okay, so it'll be like.
Well, Laurie, as much as we all love birds, I am looking forward to hearing your story. I took some notes, and I as I was reading, I thought, wow, you have somebody, like, I'm going to be able to speak to somebody who's dedicated their life to helping others, right? Like, I feel like that's kind of where you started. And then I read a little bit about your personal transition into helping yourself. Yeah. So can you give our listeners just a little background on how you were helping others? How did you start in that field?
Yeah, it's one of those interesting stories. Like, I mean, so many of your guests you've had on, that it was certainly a path that I never intended. I was a stay-at-home mom. I actually was a legal assistant for many years, then had 4 kids, so was a stay-at-home mom for many years, loved being a stay-at-home. Got my fitness certification when I had my 4, because just needed to do something else. Loved teaching fitness. I taught mainly people with Parkinson's, chronic injuries and disabilities, older adults. So I loved teaching those people. And I think through teaching, I realized the importance of social connection. Like that was a lot of the reason that people came to those classes was the social connection. So I think even then I realized how important that was. And then COVID, like with all of us, flipped everything upside down. And so when COVID was happening, that was when I had a daughter that was going through some mental health challenges that reached a crisis at that point. So it was COVID, there was all the lockdowns happening. And like with everybody, it was hard to get help. And it was a horrible time. It was the worst year of my life and my family's life. And I remember the day when it kind of reached the crisis point of me. It's one of those moments I always remember clearly, sitting on the bed, just kind of rocking back and forth, just feeling so helpless and hopeless and alone. And I thought, what do I do? How do I fix? And that was it. I wanted somebody to fix my daughter. I wanted someone just to give me the tip, the tool, the strategy, some doctor, the prescription, something that was going to fix her, right? So I thought that was the solution. I just needed somebody to fix her. But I think even sitting there on my bed, I realized, okay, that wasn't going to happen. Nobody was going to come in and fix her. And I also realized that like our relationship was so distant at that time. I didn't feel any connection with her. Any interactions that we had were me resulting in reacting and being angry and upset. And then she would react the same way. And I realized that in order to start to be the mom that I wanted to be for her again, I had to start showing up in a completely different way and feeling, which is so understandable. So I so understand and sympathize with moms that are in this. You feel, because you make everything about what's going on, understandably, with your child, especially when they're in a crisis. So, and I had three other kids. So I felt so exhausted, overwhelmed, and resentful. Being honest, I felt resentful that all of my time and energy was going into helping my daughter. And I realized that if I wanted to help her and start connecting with her again and have a relationship with her, I had to start looking after myself. And feeling overwhelmed and exhausted and burned out was not going to achieve this for me. I really realized that cliche saying that you have to put on your own oxygen mask first. And you really, really do. So I think even then, even though it wasn't at a conscious level, I knew I had to start caring for myself. So I started with journaling. I just started with, I think I had all these, negative, really dark thoughts going on in my head. So I just started with journaling, and I started every day, just 5 minutes. That was all I could manage at that time. So I started 5 minutes of journaling every day, and slowly I noticed it started to I always felt better. Like after I journaled, I felt better. I felt like this weight had been lifted off my shoulders, and then I built from there. So that's kind of how my self-care practice started, with the big realization that, I actually had to start to care for myself, and it wasn't selfish. It was the opposite, that by caring for myself, I then had the energy and state of mind to show up and care for her and my other family members. So that's kind of how my journey started.
Is it okay to ask questions? Are you comfortable answering questions about your daughter?
100%.
Okay. How old was she
So she was 16. So that's the thing, is we all know those teen years are so hard anyways. So she was 16 at the time. There was COVID going on. And so I think the culmination of normal teenage years and then being 16 and having some mental health challenges, and it had reached the peak. So
yeah. I totally could relate to being in my teens, right? Like for me, 13 was the worst. Like it was the hardest year. I don't know what it is about 13, but that was why I asked, because I was very curious age wise.
Yeah, those are really hard. They're such hard years, I think. And it was the transition. We start in Canada, we start high school in grade 10. So I think that was some of it to transitioning to a new stage, right? So out of junior high, which junior high was challenging, but then going into a new school. And I think that was a little bit too.
And also just the hormones. Remember our hormones in our teen years? They were horrible. I know that I was not the best kid. Okay. My teen years were hard too, but I think a lot of it, was hormones and external factors and, just being a normal kid. But then you heighten that with, having a mental illness or, having mental problems. It makes it even harder. Hats off to you that you realize that, and that you realize that you needed to take care of yourself before you could really take care of your daughter.
Yeah.
Was there any, I'm trying to put myself in your shoes. So COVID hits, everything's on lockdown. You're home, you're seeing, your 16-year-old daughter struggling. Was there any sort of, I guess, red flags or things that you thought to yourself, oh, what's that about? Or how did you notice? Or was she just honest and just told you?
No, I think I look back now and I do see some kind of, I think now, and this is what I tell moms too, is what I have to work on right now is having self-compassion for myself, knowing I did the best that I could at that time. Because it's so easy, 20 hindsight, so easy to look back now and think, oh, okay, there was actually some red flags. I should have, the old should, right? I should have done this. I should have said that. But I think, like I know now, I did the best with what I could at that time. Yes, there was some red flags for sure. We saw some red flags. And there was one incident where, I look at this as the universe kind of helping me out huge there, because there was one incident that was really a red flag, that behavior that was something that she had not done. And this was a huge red flag. And it was one of those red flags that, because we did act on it as her parents, I believe it probably saved at that time her life, actually. So that would be a message to me for moms, parents too, that if you are noticing red flags, so things that they aren't normally doing, act on it. Don't let it go. Act on it.
Yeah, no, that's huge. And kudos to you for having that moment of clarity and seeing that you had to step in and there was something that wasn't quite, what you had expected, right? So you stepped in on it. So, and not only that, so I'm putting myself there, right? Where you're stepping in, you're acting on something that is, a cause of a concern, but also realizing that you were already it almost sounds like you were already at your wit's end and you needed to take a second to work on yourself so that you could show up the right way for that.
Yes. And that's also when I think like the 9988 number that we have now, right? That wasn't in Canada to my knowledge at that time. It is now. But like that kind of help, it's absolutely life-changing and life-saving. Because in that moment, when you're going through a crisis, you are not, at least I wasn't, you are not thinking rationally and clearly. So to be able to know, like I always recommend to moms to actually have a crisis plan, like where it can be as simple as one sheet with a few paragraphs on or sentences on, if I need help right away, who can I call? Is there a friend, a family member, a hotline number, a therapist? Who can I call right away? Because when something like that happens, you need somebody, some resource, some number that you can call instantly, because it was way too much for me to handle on my own. I would not have been able to handle that on my own. My husband would not have been able to handle that on my own. We needed help. And thank goodness for those numbers that you can call right away and those people that are able to help, because really they are angels. They are lifesavers. They really are.
They really are. I thank God every day that compassionate and helpful woman on the other end of the line, when I called 988, she literally talked me off the ledge. Literally, she was so kind and so compassionate. And I, like I said, I'm so thankful, so very thankful.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, they're absolute angels. The people, I just want to give a shout out to the people that do those jobs, because I can only imagine how stressful it is doing a job like that and emotionally and mentally draining. But I want those people to know you are lifesavers. Like, you are changing people's lives, and they are just, they're so needed. They are so needed. And especially in that moment, it's okay. It's knowing as a parent, I can get help. I don't have to do this by myself. I don't have to suffer, but I don't have to suffer in silence, because I didn't, like, at that moment, I didn't know what to do at all. So having someone who can help you actually calm down, I found made all the difference. Saying, okay, like, calm down, and here's what we can do. And just hearing that, helping my nervous system calm down, because at that time, like, I was completely in my sympathetic, like, I was in fight, flight, or freeze mode. So I wasn't thinking rationally at all. So having someone else to help you calm down made all the difference.
I like that idea of having what I'm going to call my safety plan, right? Like, where to turn when I'm in that moment of fight, flight, or freeze. And I like the idea of developing one either with my son or for my son, where he also has it too. Because I think if I would have had that resource when I was going through my tough time as a teen, I'm just like, it would have been amazing, right? But when you don't know where to turn, and you're not necessarily, for me, I wasn't comfortable to go to my parents. So, like, to have that resource is huge.
Yeah.
Yeah, huge.
I agree.
And as a boomer, we didn't have any of that stuff. When we were kids, we didn't talk about mental health. And even into my adulthood, I didn't, because, we were taught not to talk about it. You shove that down until there's absolutely no place else for it to go.
Yeah.
And then you wake up on Christmas Day and you're like, I am completely done. Just completely done. But, I think the other thing for you too is, because this all happened during COVID, when we didn't have a lot going on because everything was closed down, I think that having that stillness, maybe having that stillness around you, gave you that moment of clarity. Because, when we get really busy and stuff, we don't take that time. I think that we need to have, and COVID, I'm just going to say COVID did suck, but it also did some good things too, right? So, like in your case, it gave you that stillness, because nobody could go out and do anything, to get that moment of clarity.
Yeah, I agree completely. I think it's so easy, what we have all about, it's so easy to distract ourselves, to not feel those negative or scary emotions that are normal feelings and emotions, and they're there for a reason. But it's so easy to busy ourselves, right? So that we don't have to feel those things. So that is one of the blessings of COVID. And I actually see that when COVID happened, it actually was a blessing in a lot of ways, in that because we were forced to, we had to address these things because we had so much more time. So even me being able to sit on my bed that morning, if it wasn't in the time of COVID, I would have been doing something else. Like, I would have been out doing my teaching, which I had normally been doing at that time that day. I would have been doing so many other things, distracting myself. So because I was at home and had to sit with these things and deal with them, I agree. It was actually a real blessing in forcing me to be able, I had to deal with these things. So yeah, I agree.
That's crazy. That's cool though, that you were able to do it, because I don't know how many people would be able to just put their best foot forward and take care of themselves first, to then help the other and not give up. Right. How are you doing today? You've been journaling and you've noticed that it's helping. Are you continuing on along that path of self-care?
Yeah, actually, what I've noticed from, like I said, and that's always what I recommend to moms, because I think we hear self-care, it's a buzzword, right? And a lot of times we think It's got to be, or it's a massage, a pedicure, or going to the gym for 1 hour. And yes, those things are all great. And if you do those things and are able to do those things and want to, that's fantastic. But that self-care is so much more. Self-care can be sitting, like right now, I have greenery outside me and mountains and trees. So self-care for me can be sitting for 5 minutes and focusing and enjoying that view. It can be enjoying a cup of coffee. It can be taking a walk for 5 minutes. It can be connecting with other people like this, sending a friend a text. So self-care is so much. I think that's what I started to understand what self-care actually meant. And I actually tell moms, always start small, because I think it's so easy to get overwhelmed. So if you don't have a practice, just start with one thing and start with 5 minutes, as we all have 5 minutes. We can all spend 5 minutes on something. So if it's journaling, if it's breathing exercises, if it's moving your body, pick one thing that resonates with you. So I think what happened is I started with the journaling, noticed a difference. And then I started adding on movement. Then I started adding on breathing movement or breathing exercises. Because what I have found with breathing exercises, there is just nothing that instantly helps to calm your nervous system than focusing on some breathing. And I do meditation also, but I find if nobody has ever meditated, sometimes that can be really intimidating. Whereas breathing exercises, to tell someone for 1 minute, focus on breathing. I like a 4, 7, 8 and count it. Everybody can do that because we all have to breathe, right? So why not learn how to do it to help regulate your nervous system? And when you count, it takes your mind off stuff. Like I will count in my head still. 4 seconds in, hold 7, 8 seconds out, because then it gives your mind something to focus on. And even right before this interview, I'm like, okay, I'm going to be on with G-Rex and Dirty Skittle. They're so awesome. I'm nervous. So I want to add some value. So I could feel my heartbeat just racing. So even a couple minutes before, I just spent 2 minutes and it just instantly helped to calm my nervous system. So I have now a 1 morning actually self-care routine. And like I said, I did not start out with 1 hour. I started with 5 minutes, but I saw the difference it made in my quality of life. So it's now 1 hour and I have teenagers. So nobody's up early in the morning. I do this in the evening. So I have the house to myself. Like it's quiet. I hear the birds. We have the robins now. I love the robins. So I hear the birds outside. It's kind of, for me, it's a magical time because it's my time. It's my time. What I tell moms, what it does for me, it equips me to handle the day so much better. So all the challenges, crap, stress that comes up, because it does, I just am able to handle it so much better now. And with my kids, I'm not near as reactive and I just have a better state of mind and I'm more calm now. So it's made all the difference in how I show up and so how I parent my kids. Because if I show up more calm, they're going to mirror my energy and they're going to be more calm. So it's completely, so I tell moms that even though it was the darkest time of my life, I look at it now as actually such a blessing because I wouldn't be here right now with you both sharing this. And I wouldn't be on the path I'm on if that hadn't happened. And it's made me a better person and a better parent. So I see it now as such a blessing.
Yeah. And how's your daughter?
Will be 20 years old right now. And I always say as of now, because things are day to day, as we all know, things are always changing. Things are always changing and evolving. But as of now, she's actually going to school in a whole nother country. She's in her first year of university. She goes to Belgium. She picked it, which is unbelievable. So she picked this on her own and did all the work to get there by herself and is in a whole nother country going to university. And my heart just swells because I couldn't be happier for her. And I just want to let listeners know that is something I say even 2 years ago when she was still in high school. It's one of those things that I never in a million years. And if someone had said that would happen, I probably would have been upset because I would have thought that was so in the realm of impossibilities. So I just want to give hope that things can always get better. They always can get better.
Yeah, that's the message.
That's really
the
is.
message. Life can change, and the now isn't permanent.
Completely.
Yeah.
And I also think, just living for that moment, right? Living for the moment, not looking back towards the past. Keep moving forward, but live for like that moment. Like this morning, before we recorded, I went out and I took a walk outside and I looked at my roses and all my everything that's in my greenhouse and the stuff I have growing on my porch, and I just had a sense of calm. I go outside to recenter myself because during the winter months, I am not going outside here because it's cold and snowing and I have to put on more than one layer of clothes. But like this morning, I could go out in my flip-flops and I could stand on the grass. And I'm also a huge proponent for journaling. So when the day after Christmas, I started going to therapy and I started, sharing my whole story, my whole journey on social media, right? Because I didn't want people to feel as alone and terrified as I did in my own journey. But I also found that like writing, and I was like I would start with like 5 minutes. I'm up to about an hour and a half of writing nowadays because I'm trying to finish my book. I had that first part written and that last part written. It's that middle trauma bound, trying to get out of my, trying to get the shit out of my head. And so I found that writing it's just so helpful because you get it out of here, out of the top of your head and onto a piece of paper, and you can use it to go back and reflect on and kind of figure out, man, what are some next steps I can do? God, why was I such a jerk to my wife? Things like that. Because it's not just moms and kids. It's adults, it's coworkers, it's the whole world, right? Like we just need to take that minute, just write it down. And if you can't write it down, like transcribe into your phone. Send yourself a recorded message. Because I kind of do that before. Sometimes when I wake up at night, I used to take a pad of paper, but now it requires me to put my glasses on if I'm going to write. It's just easier to turn the phone on. But I'll go back and listen to those messages in the morning and be like, what the fuck was I talking about? But like it comes back as stuff that it was like really important because I had the calmness around me to have that conscious thought. And that's when I get my most conscious thoughts is, after 1 or 2 in the morning.
Isn't that funny? And I've heard so many moms say, I don't know what it is about 1 or 2 in the morning. We'll wake up with all these thoughts. And I love what you said about, I love T-Rex, what you said about what journaling does. And what I always say, there is no one right way to journal. There's so many ways to journal. You can use prompts. You can use there's journals that have all guided prompts. You can do the gratitude journal, or you could just brain dump. And what I have found, like you mentioned, the biggest gift and what I have learned from journaling and takeaway and lesson is it just helps to get that rumination that goes on and on and on in the head. And usually it's negative, right? It stops that. It helps. It's kind of like kind of a brain dump, right? Of those thoughts going on and on in your head. And it gets them out of your head and onto paper. And there's something so cathartic and therapeutic about doing that. And like you said, I've gone back and looked at that and it's given me unbelievable perspective and understanding of where I've been able to look and say, oh, that's why I did that. And that's how I saw that at this time. And just a huge reflection process, which if we can reflect and gain that self-awareness, that's everything. It really is. So I think journaling is so powerful for that. And like you also mentioned, sleep can be an issue for so many of us, especially for moms if they're going through a crisis with their teens. So I say I have a journal by my bedside table. My eyesight is okay for now. So I will get up and I will take my pen and I will brain dump whatever thought is keeping me up at 1 or 2 in the morning. And I can go back to sleep. Like there is just something about getting that out of your head and onto paper. It's like my subconscious that knows, okay, we can let this go. It's there. It's on paper. So in the morning, you can address it. And it's just it's such a powerful tool. It really is. It's so powerful.
What a way to be able to measure your growth, right? Like you mentioned, being able to go back and read something, be like, oh, is that really how I felt or thought in that moment? Realizing that you have come so far from there. And I don't know, I think it's why I'm talking like I journal. I need to journal. That would be great. I'm going to do the one by my bedside because that's me. I'm laying there like thinking of 100 different things instead of going to sleep. So,
it's so funny because when we talk about the journal, right? So over like the last 6 or 7 months, my eyesight has changed and I find that now I really do need my glasses to write. So I would be writing, right, without my glasses on, and I go back to read it the next morning. I'm like, what the hell did I just write? Because like I couldn't read it, right? Like I'm like, did I become a doctor overnight and not be able to read these notes? So that's why I turned to the phone, because I can go back and listen to it and then actually like transcribe that information out. So it's something I can reflect on. And you're right, Charlene. I mean, Dirty Skittles, whatever your name is today. But it is a huge like reflection point because I can go back to the journals I started writing on January 1st, 2023 to the journals that I've been, writing to date. And I see so much growth and I can see how and why I reacted the way I did at the time and better ways I could do it now, right? It's this therapy for me has been a life changer.
Yeah. So do you journal G-Rex every single day now? Like since what, 2023, you mentioned every day? Do you journal?
Every day. Yep. I do it right before I go to bed because I try doing it in the morning, but in the mornings I've got so much going on already in my head thinking about what has to happen during the day. Then I try to do it after work and that didn't work either. So then I reverted back to doing it an hour before I go to sleep. And because it's like you said, it's just a brain dump, right? Like everything that happened that day, like I just want to get this on paper. And I'm sure that when I was a kid, I probably wrote in a diary. I don't remember. Both my parents are gone, so I can't go back and ask them, but it's very cathartic for me, right? Like it's me and a piece of paper and I get to say whatever I want to about whoever in my life.
Yeah.
And it means for me, no confrontation, because the other part of my healing was setting up some serious boundaries, right? So part of my boundary is if it sounds like drama, it don't get to come to the box anymore. But it does make it to a piece of paper where I can go back and deal with it later on. But it's not here.
Yeah.
Not taking up space.
Yeah.
That's huge.
I think that's so important that you're getting it out of, like you said, it's not here in your head. You're getting it out of your head. And I actually love that. Like I journal in the morning and right before bed. And for the same reasons you do, G-Rex, I love it before bed because we all have so much crap on our to-do list, right? Stuff we didn't get done, stuff we want to get done, stuff we're anxious about. So what I find, and this is complete, so I find also for moms that are struggling with sleep, which is so many of us, not just moms, everybody, like that's a big problem we have now is sleep. But that's done for me for my sleep. Like my sleep quality has changed from really poor to pretty unbelievable most nights. Wow. And I think a huge reason is the journaling before bed. So instead of that little to-do list going on in my head or when I'm trying to fall asleep, right? I take a sheet of paper and write down stuff that's bugging me, stuff that's upsetting me, stuff I got to do, stuff I didn't get done. Like I brain dump everything. And I think that has been such a powerful practice for allowing then my mind to kind of feel settled and think, okay, we can sleep now. It's okay. So I love that.
I love that. Well, thank you, Laurie. I mean, I'm good on my questions. I had like written down a bunch. And as you were answering all the ones that I thought of, I think your story is incredible. It's super insightful and something that I hope to never forget as I raise my child, just to make sure that they have what they need and that I'm present, but also in the way I need to be. So taking care of myself. I think this has been super helpful to hear your story. And thank you for being vulnerable with us and sharing.
Yeah, so much. I do have a question for you.
Yes.
So for today, what are you going to do for self-care and self-love?
Great question. So today, actually, I'm going to, because like I said, we're fortunate we live near the mountains. So I'm going to go on a hike. We have a dog. She's 13 years old. So and it's so amazing because when she knows she's going to go outside, go on a walk, go on a hike, it's like she becomes a puppy again. I call it her youth elixir because she's a red bandana. We bring out this red bandana when she's going on a mountain hike. So as soon as you bring out this bandana, she acts like a puppy again. So it's so exciting for us to see this too. So bringing her out and going on a hike and I love it because it's a way to connect with the family. So we have two teens we have our older two that are not living with us anymore, but we have two teens, 17 and a 12-year-old. So almost teen that are living with us still. So it's a way to get everybody out of the house. And there's just something about being in nature because if people want to be silent the whole time, they can be silent. If they want to talk, they can talk. And so that I have found completely recharges me. So being out in nature is something that just completely recharges me. And I come back and feel re-energized. And like we were mentioning about the animals, just seeing the squirrels, seeing the birds, I love it all. And when I think back, I remember times of, when I was a kid, I was always out in nature and loved it. So for me, it was always a way to really connect with myself and one of the best ways for me to practice self-care for myself. So that's what I'm going to do today.
That makes me so happy. So happy. So I'm actually going to turn tables on Dirty Skittles this time, and I'm going to ask one of her favorite questions. Okay. And this is actually for both of you. So, Laurie, what is your favorite word?
My favorite word. I think my favorite word right now actually is progress. Because the reason that word right now is such a big deal for me is like I mentioned earlier, I think what I'm working on right now is because I've learned so much more in the last 2 years from so many amazing experts and courses I've taken, seminars, books, and workshops about how to become a better parent. So, which is absolutely amazing because I have changed my parenting and how I relate with my kids and everybody. And at the same time, it's so easy to go back and do all that. I failed at how I handled that. I probably scarred my daughter because of what I did back then. So it's so easy to beat myself up. So having self-compassion for myself is huge and thinking progress. Look at the progress that I have made as a parent and as a human being in the last 2 years. So like Mel Robbins, have you both heard of Mel Robbins?
Yeah.
And her high five yourself. So I actually do try to high five myself when I use the word progress in the mirror when I'm feeling down and think, look at the progress you've made in the last few years, Laurie. And I look at the progress my daughter has made in the last few years. So progress for me is so huge because I think most of us are so hard on ourselves and beat ourselves up for all the shoulds we should have done or should be doing and our to-do list that we didn't get done. And I have everybody one day you did something to be proud of yourself for. You did something you could be grateful for, something that you can look at yourself for and say, I made progress. I'm making progress. I am making progress. So progress is my word.
I love that. I love that. Okay, Dirty Skittles. So what's your favorite word?
What is my favorite word? That is a good question. I will probably say one word I say a lot is grace, which I know Bizzle, my husband's listening, and is probably going to be like, oh, here she goes. Grace, because to me, I think what I have to continue to work on every day is giving myself grace because I try to be a perfectionist in certain things that are outside of my control. So learning to just give myself grace. I can't control everything or every outcome. And I have to understand that if I'm putting my best foot forward, that's okay. And that is all I can really do. And I should just be graceful.
I love that. Okay. So now I have the flip side of that question. So Laurie, what is your least favorite word?
My least favorite word right now. Good question. Kind of that, almost that, I guess, bro mentality, kind of go after it. You got to go get it. Or like the hustle. Okay, that's it. The hustle. Go after that hustle. I understand where it comes from, that if you have a passion or something you want to work on, and you have to pay the bills and work your 9-to-5 job, do your side hustle on the job. But I think it gets, for me anyways, I don't like the mentality around of it of go, 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 go all the time, right? You always got to be productive. You always got to be working so hard. So something about that word hustle kind of gets I don't like it.
I love that. And Dirty Skittles, what's your least favorite word?
I mean, my least favorite word, I feel like we've touched on it once upon a time, is wasp. Just because I don't like the way it sounds. Wasps. Especially if it's plural. Wasps. Ugh. I don't like it. And then you got like moist. Nobody wants to hear the word moist. But for no other reason other than it's icky.
So did you get stung by wasps at some point? And you have
I have. It's the SP at the end of the word. It's literally just the sound.
I'm going to call you on Monday morning.
Yeah. I'm like sensitive to sounds. And the SP at the end of that word, it's like nails on a chalkboard. Oh. What about you, G-Rex?
So my favorite word in the world is love, because it encompasses so much of what I've gone through, because I had to learn how to love myself again, and I had to learn how to love life again, and I had to learn how to feel again, right? And so love reminds me of my wife. It reminds me of my friends. It reminds me of everything that I've worked really hard to accomplish in the last 18 months. And I love myself. I can honestly say I did not love myself on Christmas Day, but I love myself now, and I love where I've come from and how I've grown over this time. And so my least favorite word, it starts with a C, it has 4 letters, and it ends in a T. That is the worst word ever.
It's horrible.
It is a horrible word. Okay. Just a horrible. And if anybody ever calls me that name, I am not talking to you ever again. Okay. Yeah. Horrible, horrible word.
It is.
It's horrible. Like, there are other choice words you can use. You do not need to use that word. But Laurie, the other thing I wanted to ask you about is you have a symposium coming up for parents, right?
Yes. Yeah, I have a summit. It's called Tools for Moms with Teens. Navigate your teens' mental health challenges with confidence, clarity, and effective communication, while also caring for yourself. And the reason, I have 31 expert speakers now. So they're parenting coaches for teens, some doctors, mental health experts. And this has just been the most unbelievable experience, because I have learned so much. Like, selfishly, I have learned so much from interviewing these experts. So why I did this is I want moms, like how I felt in that time, hope, right? If they listen to this and come away with one tip, tool, strategy, resource that gives them hope, and for them to feel like they are not alone. There is so many moms, parents that are going through this, and so many people that can help you and want to help you. So that's why I did this. I want moms to feel hope, support, that they're not alone, that there's so many and more all the time resources and tools. So it's August 12th to the 25th will be my online summit. You can sign up for free. 2 expert talks will be released today for the full 2 weeks.
Wow, that's awesome.
That's so awesome. I will make sure I get that information in the show notes for our listeners. And I'm so excited. Thank you so much, Laurie. Thank you for coming on. Your tips and tricks will help so many moms, even moms that don't have like kids with mental health issues, just moms in general. Yeah. They're all overwhelmed.
I agree. And thank you so much, both of you, Dirty Skittles and G-Rex, for what you do. Because I can honestly say your podcast and the information you're providing and the guests that you have on, you're changing lives. You really are. What you're doing with this podcast is you're bringing a sense, with humor that I love, you're bringing a sense of normalcy to mental health. And all the different, like there is not one way to address your mental health or get help. There's so many different modalities. So you are providing so much unbelievable resources and help for all those different modalities that people can try, and just bringing a sense of normalcy to be able to talk about it. And I just have to share with you both. I thought of you both. My older daughter, who's dating a guy now, she said I didn't know this expression because I'm not young and cool in that way, but a green flag. I guess that means something really good, a green flag. And she was telling me a green flag. He's 22, is that he goes for therapy. And I thought, how unbelievable if young people, especially young men, can actually normalize that and start to talk that. Like that is a great thing. So your podcast is doing that. So thank you both. Thank you for having me.
Thank you.
Thank you, Laurie. Hi, all. Thank you so much for listening to this episode. I'm G-Rex.
And I'm Dirty Skittles.
Don't forget to subscribe, rate, and review this podcast. We'd love to listen to your feedback.
We can't do this without you guys.
It's okay to be not okay. Just make sure you're talking to someone.